Houston.
Jonah.
Okay. Today,
Yeah.
we're going to talk about cars.
Cars. Cars are so cool. You
Uh,
know,
yeah.
I like cars,
Do you?
especially when they're on tracks and there's a bunch of them attached to each other.
I like those kinds of cars.
Those are really cool cars.
I like those kinds of cars. When cars are on tracks and there are lots of them connected to each other, and they are potentially automated,
Yeah.
and potentially they go choo choo, and potentially,
No, they,
like-
they don't go choo choo. They go beep beep.
oh, I like the beep beep ones. I like
Yeah.
the choo choos ones more. I like the chugga 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 choo choo chugga 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 chugga. I'm a car. You know, those are my favorite kinds of car.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, to be specific, we're not talking about trains.
Not at all. No.
No.
We're talking about cars.
These are cars.
Yes. Next episode we might talk about trains. Hypothetically.
Yeah.
This episode talk
It's
about cars.
definitely about cars.
It's exclusive about cars.
Yeah.
This episode is about cars. The title of this
Welcome-
episode is Cars. The future of cars, not
Yeah.
trains. There's going to be a little asterisk that's going to say not
trains.
trains, because not
Yeah.
trains, we're talking about cars. Okay. Right now,
Mm-hmm.
cars kill a bunch of people.
Oh, for sure.
Not ideal.
Yeah.
1.2 million people a year die in car crashes.
Not
I would
ideal.
consider this not ideal.
Yeah. People dying is not good.
It's a general rule, with the exception of Donald Trump. I don't like it when people die.
Sure.
I wasn't that upset if like Newt Gingrich died also.
Sure.
Point is, not ideal. How do we make people not die in car crashes? I have a proposal.
I want to hear it.
My proposal is the reason people die in car crashes is because, hear me out, people are bad at driving.
Sure. Oh, for
Shockingly
sure.
bad at driving. As a
Oh,
general rule, people are just not competent as
No.
drivers.
Yeah. They also ignore the rules.
They
which
ignore
makes
the
them
rules,
worse.
which makes them even worse.
Yeah.
Also, something like 90% of people think that they're an above average driver, which is not how to clarify.
No.
Any of you are wrong.
Oh, for
A
sure.
large percentage of you are incorrect because,
Yeah.
hear me out, half of the people are below average drivers because that's how freaking math works. But 90% think that they're
Yeah,
above
that's
average.
true, actually.
And the
Yeah.
fact that we all think that we're above average drivers means that we're like very like nonchalant about our driving. We're just like, oh yeah, I can take this like pew 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 vroom vroom, all of that shit. You
I
know?
can go faster.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
how streets work, because
Oh, for
people
sure.
go in the vroom vroom and the vom vom and the bloop.
And the
I don't know what the bloop was, but we're gonna ignore that and move on. The point is, we are very bad at driving.
Right.
Computers are shockingly less bad.
Right.
It's a general rule. They're not perfect. We still have more work to be done. I have some friends who are in the industry who are working to make cars better at automation and better capable of driving without the interference of people, because people are bad at driving.
Right.
Okay. Tesla's trying to do this, right?
Yeah.
Lots of people are trying to do this. Uber's trying to do this. Google's trying to do this. Everyone's trying to do this. All of the Apple's trying to do it. Apple's not going to succeed. Apple's behind on this particular one. But the point is that they're all trying. All of Silicon Valley's trying to do this. Okay. I would like that.
Yeah, I would like that too.
It's going to take a while.
Oh, it's going to take a while.
It's going to take a while before we're able to be truly automated.
Right.
But once that happens, I would say, good. Slightly fewer millions of people are dying because of car poo-pooms. We don't like the car poo-pooms.
Yeah.
So I like it. But there are other problems related to cars. Here's a problem related to cars. Climate change is bad.
Yeah.
I don't like climate change as a general
Yeah.
rule. I'm not a big fan.
Me neither.
I'm not a big fan. I don't want it to exist. And so because of that, I see the problem of our cars, of our car manufacturing in particular, even more than the usage of cars, so the manufacturing of cars, as a serious problem, right?
Mhm.
The vast majority of the cost from an environmental perspective is actually done at the level of manufacturing, not at the level of usage, which is quite interesting because we obviously are pumping a bunch of oil into these, but that's not the real problem. The problem is the making
Yeah.
of them,
Interesting.
comparatively speaking, which is interesting.
Yeah.
That suggests that like this whole electric car thing, I do not support.
Really?
I do not support, at least in the short term, because what it means is like, okay, I get a nice Tesla.
Yeah.
The cost of making a Tesla is huge, astronomical, both economically, but also in terms of like climate change. There's a
Right.
huge cost to our environment when you make a Tesla. So that's the first problem. The second problem is like the way that we're providing energy nationally is not renewable as a general rule. And so it's not that much more renewable. It's not that much better for the environment to be using, electricity that is provided through frickin' coal than just to use oil.
Right.
Right? That's not better. The problem is that we need to be convincing people to use the same cars for a longer and longer period of time. That's the first problem. Okay. Those are both like sort of components of this problem. So I propose.
I don't think people like change their car. I think it's harder for people to use the same car for a longer period of time because they're made poorer, and they also like are more expensive. So you can't like most people lease them, and they have to like switch out cars and like stuff like. And then, as you said, people are bad at driving, so like they crash the car and they have to get a new car.
Valid. All of this is
Right.
valid. That's true. People need to get new cars. They need to get new cars as in a car that is new to their family. They don't need to get new cars as in like, let me buy it new.
Right.
Right. You can get a used car.
Yeah.
You just need to get a car that like works.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's that part. But my view, based on this, is that the way that we should be approaching our future is by having fewer cars.
I would agree. Yeah.
Right? And the way that you have fewer cars is that you have people use the same cars collectively. Now, keep in mind, we're just talking about cars here.
Yeah. They're cars. They have
cars.
the engines, they have the four wheels, and they go vroom,
they're cars.
vroom.
They're cars.
Yeah.
They go vroom vroom, and they're cars.
Yeah.
I want these cars to have lots of people inside of them.
Okay.
Giant carpool. Now, I propose the way that we do this giant carpool is that we provide a giant carpool through the government. Okay? So anyone who wants to join this carpool should just be allowed to.
Okay. That sounds pretty cool.
Anyone who wants to should just be able to get into this car, and they'll just like take them from one place to another place.
Sure.
Okay. So the first thing that you'd think is like, oh, okay, Jonah. So you're going to say that like, I pick you up from your house, then I go to, whatever it is, to the Stop and Shop, and then I go to the Giant Eagle, and then I go to, the Teddy Bear Emporium, whatever it is, wherever we're all going.
Okay.
Right. I don't know why I had Teddy Bear Emporium. I'm not even sure if that's a real thing. We're moving on. The point is that like, that's one way to do a carpool.
Yeah.
You can do a carpool where everyone gets from their point A exactly to their point B.
Yeah.
Right. But the truth is that that's moderately inefficient.
Yeah.
In fact, it's very inefficient. Think about two options. Here's a carpool with 20 people in the carpool, right? With 20 slightly different destinations and coming from 20 slightly different places. I can do one of two things. I can have the car go from exactly this point where we're picking up Houston, exactly to this point where we're picking up Jonah, exactly to this point where we're picking up Daphne, exactly to this point where we're picking up Sarah, exactly to this point where we're picking up Zeus, whatever, all of these different places to pick up all of these people. And that is one option. Or we can say, hey, everyone, get your butt over to this one place, which is relatively close to all of us, and we all just walk over.
Yeah.
It turns out that a lot of work has been done on this in cities. And in terms of like, what is the more efficient way to do it? And it turns out as a broad principle, it's actually much more efficient. So people are doing Uber pools. Uber pools are much less efficient than they could be if everyone was simply going to one spot to get picked up in that one spot and having to walk over there a little bit to get to that one spot to then collectively be able to be much more efficient from getting from that point to the other point.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't make sense to have unless it's 20 times faster for the car to go pick you up than for you to go to the car. As a totality, it makes everyone else less efficient.
Yeah.
If you have 20 people on the bus. Okay. Excuse me, not bus.
Car. Right.
Not a bus. We're talking about cars.
This isn't a bus.
Not about bus. It's a car.
It's not like a big car. It's not
definitely
a bus.
it's a
just
big car. It might be
a
large.
big car.
It's a large car.
Yeah.
And it's a publicly owned car.
Yeah.
And it's a car that is used for transit of groups.
Right. From one
stop
to another
stop.
Right.
But it is a car. I want to be very clear.
Yeah.
It's a car.
Yeah.
There's a car driver, not a bus driver. It's a car.
Mm-hmm.
It's a car. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a car.
So now we want to put these cars on tracks.
Well, okay.
Well,
why?
So I like the tracks because it's easier to kind of control them. It's harder for them to go off the tracks because if they're like firmly planted on the tracks, it's harder for them to be like, I'm going to swerve and I'm going to go like whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop-de-doo. And because they kind of go from like one point to another point, they don't really need to like stay outside of that lane, right? They're kind of just like going like a trolley, but it's a car.
It's a car. It's not. Don't compare things to trolleys.
It's not a trolley. Sorry, I'm sorry.
It's not a trolley. It's not a trolley. We're just making a more efficient form of car.
Right. And so you even have like you can stop the car at the points. You can have the kind of like make it easier for pedestrians to cross the street, and you can have it so that the cars are kind of like locked into place, so they can't like go further, right? And if they have these cars on the road, they can't run into each other because they're kind of on these tracks, like not like a train because they're not trains, they're cars.
They're cars,
right? And so
I don't know what this comparison to trains is.
Right,
silly.
they're not like trains.
Cars. They're not
cars.
like trains. Moving on.
Right.
Moving on.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah,
I like
so,
it.
Yeah. So then we have these tracks and these cars that carry a lot of people on these tracks, and they go from point A to point B to point C to point D, and they're public use, and the government's paying for it.
And the government's paying for it. I like all of this. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Now let's talk about where are these cars going to be allowed and where are these cars not going to be allowed. Okay. Here is my belief. Okay. Cars, they take up a lot of space.
Really?
They do.
Wow.
Take up a lot of space. They have a lot of space, particularly in cities.
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Parking, nightmare.
It is a nightmare. It's very problematic. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to sit here. This is all of the space I take up.
Yeah.
All of this space, right? Okay. People talk about like man spreading on trains, right?
Yeah.
Right? That's a big problem on trains. It's a serious problem and it requires serious solutions and like, wildly problematic. And anyway, the point is, for sure.
Absolutely.
Let's talk for a moment about car spreading. Cars are bigger. I'm gonna put you down for a second. I'm wearing a blanket. Okay. Look at my legs. I'm gonna go like this. Okay. That's my man spreading. Do you see this? I'm spreading my legs. They're very intensely spread. They're wildly spread. I am taking up probably right now, give or take maybe 4 feet in this direction, right?
Sure.
And then I'm gonna go like this. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna take as much space as I possibly can. Okay, and not even that. I'm also going to put. Okay, right here is my bag. So right now, I'm taking up a lot of space. I'm taking up these two seats for my thighs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, those are my thighs. This is my backpack.
Yeah.
Backpack. Okay. That's my backpack. I'm taking up lots of space. Okay.
Yes.
It's problematic. Lots of
Very
space.
problematic.
Very problematic. I'm taking up way too much space on this
Yeah.
hypothetical train, which obviously we're not talking about now because it's
No.
not an episode about trains. We're not talking about trains at all. The
No.
point is, we're talking about cars. Okay. You have two options. Option one, you have the asshole. We're going to call him Fred because we don't like Fred.
No.
As a reminder, we do not like Fred.
We do not like Fred.
We do not like Fred on this podcast. If your name is Fred, leave. We don't like you. Like it before you leave, but then leave. Okay. The point is, Fred is not ideal. And Fred is taking up all of this freaking space on this hypothetical train, which we're definitely not talking about this episode. Problematic.
Very problematic.
But then we have John.
Okay.
I sort of fell a little bit in my chair. Okay. John is not manspreading.
No.
His legs are crossed. His legs are crossed. And he put his backpack in his lap. So kind of John.
Oh, nice.
Except not really, because fuck John. Because John is sitting alone in his car. While Fred taking up all that space. Okay?
He's on the train.
He's on...
What?
Not a train.
Oh, not a train. Sorry, not a train. The car. So we're not
He's
talking
in a
about
car,
trains this episode. We're saying a car, but
it
a
is
public car.
It's a
with other
public
people.
car. It's a large shared car.
Right.
Okay.
Not a train.
Car, not a train. It's a shared car on tracks. The point is, okay, Fred is taking up right now 6 feet of space because he is an asshole.
Yeah.
You're not like Fred.
No.
But John, even though he's crossing his legs, even though he put the backpack on his lap, is alone in his car. And he's taking up like 30 freaking feet.
Yeah.
30 feet.
For a long
Frickin'
time,
John.
too.
Freaking John. Not
He's
only is
driving
he
that
doing-
car.
Right.
He's like taking up the space in the car while he's driving there. He's taking up the space when he's parking it. And he's taking up the space while he's out doing his thing. And there's a space that's just sitting there. Granted, he's paying for the space, ideally.
Oh, no.
No, he's not paying for the space?
No. In many cities across the country, people don't even pay for parking.
Really?
Yeah. That's a thing.
Wait, are we like...
That's a thing. People
That's a thing?
People
That's crazy.
Freaking sick.
They just put... They take their like 40-foot cars and they drive them wherever they want. And they just leave them there.
Just leave them there. They just leave them there.
That's ridiculous.
And I'm like, dude.
That space. That car.
They're not even there. They are like, imagine if on this hypothetical collective car, if Fred, an asshole, we don't like Fred, should not manspread. Imagine if Fred just taped off, taped off a 10-foot, by 8-foot section of the collective area of this big car, of this train.
Not train.
It's not a train. It's a car.
Not a train. It's a car.
It's a car. And was just like, okay, I'm not even going to be on the car.
Yeah.
Not even going to be in the car. Okay.
Not even around the car.
Not even around the car. I'm going to be in a completely different area.
Yeah.
Completely different area. I might be taking a nap, but you're not allowed in that area of the car.
No.
That whole area.
That's Fred's area.
Because that's Fred's area.
Right.
Permanently.
Yeah.
That is what a car park is.
Yeah.
That is what it is.
Yeah.
All of that space. And by the way, car parking isn't even the only problem. When we talk about the way we approach our roads, how much space is there supposed to be between first car and the second car?
It's a full car.
Yeah.
Yeah. That doesn't
so
happen.
It's double.
Yeah.
It's double the amount of space.
Yeah.
And then people just leaving this shit around. I mean, imagine if I, just decided that from now on, I was going to carry around a tuba. Okay. And what I
Okay.
do is I just carry around my tuba, and every so often I just leave it there in the middle of the street.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, hey, everyone, you have to deal with my tuba. It's just going to sit there in the middle of the city. I need, okay, everywhere, on every single street, there
Mm-hmm.
needs to be, okay, an entire lane devoted to me and other tuba players to just put our tubas. And by the way, we're not going to put our tubas upright because that's bad for the tuba. Instead, we're going to put the tuba down like this, flat on the ground, okay? It's going to take up all of this space,
Sure.
okay? And I'm not even going to use the tuba. I'm just going to leave it there for the majority of the day. It's just going to sit there on the side of the street, just taking up space, public space. And by the way, you have to pay. The rest of society has to pay for my tuba space. You would look at me like I'm crazy.
Right.
Tubas are smaller than cars.
Yeah.
By far, way smaller than cars.
Oh, for sure.
Cars are noticeably, they're like 3 tubas. 4 tubas. They're giant freaking tubas.
Yeah.
But somehow
and we
it's
just
ridiculous.
Let them stay there.
We just let them sit there.
Yeah.
They're not doing anything.
No.
So my proposal is that cars should either always be moving or they should get the fuck out of my city. If you want to park your car, park it somewhere like a tuba. That's not my area.
Right.
You know?
It's public land. Like
public land.
It's my land.
My land. It's my land.
Right.
It's my land. We have a whole land episode. It's a great episode. The point is, like,
yeah.
Don't leave your tubas just sitting around. So here's my proposal with respect to the tubas. With respect to the cars.
Right.
Cars and tubas. Okay.
Cars that aren't trains.
Cars that definitely aren't trains.
No.
I want these cars to always be moving. Or if they have to get like fixed or whatever, I want them to leave my freaking city and do that somewhere where the land is not so important. Every single square foot in Manhattan is extremely expensive.
Oh, for sure.
Extremely
ridiculously expensive.
Ridiculously expensive.
Right.
And people just park on the side of the street.
Yeah.
I'm like, every freaking square foot of that is worth literally thousands of dollars. Thousands of dollars.
And they're just chilling.
That is beautiful space.
Yeah. So much could be done with that space.
So much could be done with that space.
Yeah.
And you're just going to leave your fucking tuba there? And you expect me to just let that shit happen? This is not tuba space. This is Jonah space. This space belongs to me. This space belongs to Houston.
It does.
This space belongs to society.
It belongs to Fred.
It belongs
Even though he's an
to
asshole
Fred.
and we don't like
no,
him.
we don't like
belongs
Fred.
to
We don't
him.
like Fred. It certainly belongs to Fred more than frickin' John.
Right.
Certainly more than frickin' John.
Oh, for sure.
I might hate John more than Fred. But it's not about hatred. It's about love and respect. We're not haters on this podcast. We love and respect everyone, even John, even though he's a piece of shit, and there are no redeeming qualities about him. The point is, okay, no more parking for cars.
Cool.
In all of Manhattan,
Mm-hmm.
in every downtown, everywhere in the world. But we're particularly about America because, like, we're Americans and whatever. Sure.
Yeah. We're
No
from
more
New
parking.
York. Or
From New York area.
the greater New York area, so we care about New York. I mean, it is the greatest city in the world, so
It is indeed the greatest
it's
city
not
in the
to
world.
care about New
An
York.
argument can be made that we're like a little bit full of ourselves for calling it that all the
Oh,
time.
for sure.
But
I
like,
think
I'm
that's
okay
also
with
the
it.
point.
I'm okay with it. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
okay with it. I think it's okay. I
Yeah.
think, like, you know, someone is the best. Here's the thing. Like, here's the thing. Okay, there are probably a lot of people who think they're the coolest person on earth.
Yeah.
One of them is right.
Interesting.
You know,
I never
one of them
thought about
is
that.
right.
Yeah.
So, like, is it that
Yeah.
crazy to think that you know, New York is the best city?
I don't think so.
Like, we might just
I don't think so.
be right. Like,
Yeah, I think
who's
we
better
are.
than us? It's not Singapore. They're totalitarian. You
Right.
know, it's not like, Tokyo.
London.
It's certainly not London. You
Right.
know, it's not like, it's not Lagos. It's not
Los
like,
Angeles.
it's not Shanghai. It's not Los Angeles. Certainly, it's not
Right.
Los Angeles. Los Angeles is gross.
Not Boston for sure.
Boston is not a real city. Boston is a small hamlet that wants to be New York. And once upon a time, they were moderately important because the Puritans were evil. The point
Right.
is that, like, maybe New York just is the best city.
I think
This is entirely not part of the conversation about cars, definitely not trains. The point is, I want to get rid of the car parking. So I want the cars to always be moving all of the time. And they're on tracks. And so they will be moving all the time. And every so often, if they need to get their parts fixed or whatever, there will also be a track that will let them out of the city to go elsewhere to get fixed and then come back and then continue on with their work. Okay. I also want less space in general to be devoted to cars.
Okay.
So what I want to do is I want to have this thing called a super block. A super block is, imagine a block. Floop, 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 floop. That's my block.
Yeah.
Okay. Zoom out. This is the small block. It's a block. It's the same size block, but it's smaller now because the map is bigger. That's how maps work. Okay. Yeah. This block, I want to have 3 blocks in a row and 3 blocks in a row. So 9 blocks total, right? And that whole thing in the inside side will have no cars allowed. It will be only for bicycling. It will be only for scootering. It will only be for walking.
Okay.
It will only be for dancing. It will only be for fooding / eating outside.
Okay.
It will only be for dancing, for singing.
Performances?
I don't know why I'm doing this with my shoulders, but I'm really digging it. And I want to see how long I keep it going.
The super block sounds pretty sexy.
It's pretty freaking sexy. Yeah. So it's just all of that space is going to be devoted to this. Now, remember earlier when we were talking about the people getting from point A to point B, it's faster if people just everyone goes to one collective point A and get to one collective point B than to actually do that last tiny little stretch of area.
Right.
If you have these 9, this is how math works. Are you ready? No matter how far you are, if you imagine like on each of the points, so what you do is you say, okay, it's going to stop on this corner of the super block, and it's going to stop at this corner of the super block, and this corner and this corner, right? So each of the 4 corners, which means that it's going to be at maximum, right? You have to go over 1 block over here and over 1 block over here to get into the very middle, the very center of the block, right? So 2 blocks, you have to walk 2 blocks maximum, right? To get to wherever you're trying to go. That's the worst that could possibly happen. And the whole inside is all freely available area. And it means all of that area can now be used for public use that is not freaking car parking. Because again, John does not deserve all of that stupid tuba space because I want that tuba space to be converted into, hear me out, not tuba space.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
I want it to be used for like restaurants. One of the many bad things about coronavirus is that it means that we're not able to go inside for restaurants.
Yeah.
But at least in Pittsburgh, where I go to school, the result of that has been that, like, oh, would you look at that? A lot of people are starting to have, spaces that used to be part of the street that are now outdoor seating.
Yeah.
It's quite nice. I
like
it. It's
pretty nice.
Seating.
Yeah.
It's very nice. And that's it's really helpful. And then you can think about like that space that can become a jungle gym for the kiddos. It's space that can become a public pool. It's space that can become all of these different ideas of public use for spaces, right? This all becomes basically a park.
Yeah.
Right. And it's park space that can be used for commerce. It's park space that can be used for like, luxuries and gardens and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Quite nice. It means that the views of people within these super blocks are better. It means that there's more ability for travel. It means it's better for tourism. It means it's better for all of this different context. In all of these different senses, it's much better.
Yeah.
So we need to have super blocks with cars, still cars, definitely still cars. They're not trains.
Very much
with cars, very much cars.
Yeah.
In just these sort of larger streets, right? These streets that are, and when I say larger, I don't mean like physically larger, but because keep in mind that like even the giant man spreading Fred is taking up much less space than John does. even if everyone's man spreading on in these larger collective cars,
Cars,
right?
yeah,
They take up less space in total than people using individual cars going and driving around alone,
for sure.
for sure. So all of that is reasons that this has to be implemented.
Okay.
Now the question is, how do we implement this?
Yeah.
Okay. What are your ideas?
So I like the idea of kind of using the coronavirus time to start to take up the streets anyway, and trying to like take like the restaurants already have like the outdoor seating, right? I know
Mhm.
I went in Brooklyn. I was in Brooklyn over the summer, and we sat at like this restaurant bar thing, and they just took up the street, and they had like, because there aren't any cars, there weren't many cars going through because people weren't using the cars to travel. And it just kind of like they had like outdoor seating like in the box, and it was pretty and it was nice and it was cool. Like they had people talking, and like there was a lot of like, also a lot of people around, like people around, and it's like it seemed happy, you know,
Mhm.
even though it was a busy day and I was working, I was really tired, but that scene made me happy. So I think we should just keep doing that and just do it more,
Just
you
do it
know.
more.
We
Just
already
do it more.
have, like in New York City, I think there are 2 blocks right now
Mhm.
that are those. I know there's one on 80, not 80, 92nd Street,
Yep.
in between second and third, that is not for cars, it's just for people. And I don't think we use it effectively because I feel like it's harder because it's just like this 1 block on a hill, which isn't ideal. But
Sure.
like, I feel like there's no reason we can do more of that. We can just like extend it, zoom, zoom, and
More
zoom,
zooms and
zoom.
zooms.
Right.
Yes. I
And then you just
support the
have
zoom
more
zooms.
people outside and doing more things. And then that's another way to get people like active and get people to be outside.
Right.
Cause like, yeah, I want to go outside and play on like a jungle gym.
Absolutely. I love jungle
Yeah,
gyms. Yeah. Jungle gyms are great.
yeah. Or
In
like,
Yeah, across Asia, they have much better jungle gyms. They have jungle gyms that are like, they're like exercise bikes and stuff that are built
ooh,
into the jungle gyms. And they have like all these different like adorable old ladies, like playing with their grandkids, and like they're doing this like exercise on their exercise bikes, that are like, they're like not mechanized. They're really cool.
I
Um,
want that.
right? Why
We
can't
need
we have that?
like we need cool thing. Like people like exercise, but like adults, you like run, right?
Yeah,
Adults like they run or you go to the gym. Like I
yeah. I
don't
don't
like either
understand
of those
running.
things.
Those both
I
suck.
hate running. Oh my
Running is so
god.
boring. I don't understand. Like people,
Ugh.
like I see people running around, and I'm like, where are you going? Like genuinely, where? Why? Why? Where are
Yeah,
you going?
it's
So
just to
what I
get
always do,
exercise.
it's just for getting exercise. What I always
Like
do, yeah,
I can't do anything. Like
yeah,
like right now I'm talking to you, I'm monitoring this thingy, and I'm like checking the time, making sure we're on schedule. Like,
yeah, which I never do. So thank you for that. Yeah,
right. I can't do any just one thing. And
yeah,
that's partly why I don't like running.
right.
You can't like, I
Yeah,
can't do anything else.
yeah. It's problematic. It's problematic
Yeah.
because there's nowhere to go.
Right.
Like
You're
if
just
you're
like
going,
running
I
around.
don't mind at all. I mean, when I'm in Pittsburgh, what I have a rule for myself that I never go to Rite Aid. Rite Aid is probably like the equivalent of 6 blocks away from my frat house, which I was kicked out of, which is a different story.
Okay.
I'm a very bad boy. I'm naughty. I didn't pay dues to Nationals because I don't like them because they're bad people.
Anyway,
Anyway, that's not the point. The point is that I don't go 6 blocks. I go instead all the way to CVS, which is like 12 blocks away. And the point of this is to get exercise for myself. But the point is
sure.
that more broadly, we need to build a city, both from a health perspective and also from like it's fun, my guy. We like it.
Yeah.
We need to build a city that like provides destinations and provides a reason for people to be walking more, and provides a
Right.
reason for people to be biking more, provides a reason for people to be, skateboarding or whatever the frick it is that the little kiddos do these days, whatever it is.
Sure.
All of that is good, right? Collective outdoor space is really important.
Yeah. Like
And the use,
imagine if you just have like one super block, right?
Mhm.
That has like a pool, and you
Yeah,
just like all chill and you all go into the pool. Or like you live like a few super blocks down, you're like, oh, there's a public theater and there's like an
yeah,
outdoor theater
an
space. Like
amphitheater.
let's
Yeah,
go and like hang out in the amphitheater. Or like
exactly right.
a few others down, there's like, oh, there's an ice skating rink all year round and we can like go ice skating.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
that
100%.
sounds dope.
It's totally
Right?
dope. All of it is dope.
Yeah.
It's super freaking dope, but we don't get it. We
because
don't
of the
have that
cars.
because,
Ooh,
well,
John.
because of the Johns, not because of the
Right.
cars, but because of the
Oh
Johns.
yeah, the cars are good. They're on
So
tracks and
long as
they're
they're on
going through
tracks,
the thingies.
and as long
Yeah.
as they take up less space, we
Yeah.
support cars. We
They're
just
always
don't
so long
support,
as they're always moving.
as long as they're always moving and don't
Yeah.
take pauses, and definitely don't freaking leave their freaking tuba space and expect me to just let them leave their freaking tubas everywhere on the entire freaking city. That shit is bullshit. And I don't
Yeah.
like it. Okay. But you're allowed to have cars just so long as they're collective cars.
Right.
Okay. Again, to be clear, I'm not anti-car. I love
No,
cars.
we
Cars are
love
great.
cars.
We love cars, and they belong in cities,
They're fantastic.
obviously, just
Of
so long
course.
as they don't fuck me over, which
Right.
right now they are
Yeah.
pretty intensely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. We haven't really talked about the climate implications of this yet,
Oh,
but let's
yeah.
do that a little bit.
Okay.
Okay. Having one car, unlike changing from an oil car to a electric car, changing from 10 cars to one car does a lot.
Sure.
It in fact decreases tenfold approximately
Right.
the amount of energy
Yeah.
that is required to make the car.
That's definitely how math works.
That is approximately how much. Well, yeah, approximately, because obviously this car has to be slightly bigger.
Sure.
It's still a car, but it's going to be a slightly bigger car.
They
A little bit bigger. Maybe there'll be multiple rows to the cars. Maybe able to walk inside of the car. All of these different things. All of these examples, still a car. Still a car.
Not a bus.
Not a bus. Not a bus. It's a car. It's a car. I will fight you if you don't say it's a car. The point is, it's a car. But like for all of these different reasons, this has an effect of really helping us from a climate perspective.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And it also has an effect of really building out the city and encouraging people to stay outside. And doing both of those things has the effect of encouraging less smog, right? When we talk about the problem of smog, I go to school in Pittsburgh, and in Pittsburgh, there was a series of many, many decades where I have one professor, Doug Cooper, who was probably our best art professor in the university, and he was there literally since Andy Warhol was there. He remembers Andy Warhol, and he has been there for forever.
Yeah.
And he remembers there's a Cathedral of Learning, which is this giant, beautiful white building in the University of Pittsburgh, which is right next door to our school. And the building used to be black. Not because it was actually black, not because anyone painted it, but because of the amount of soot that was on it.
Ooh, that's a yikes.
It's a yikes.
Yeah.
Right? The amount of smog that infests so many of our cities, in the United States, yes, but particularly increasingly in China and increasingly in India and increasingly across Asia, and to a lesser extent, although also increasing across Africa as well. It's a real problem.
It's just bad.
It's just bad.
We don't like it.
It's bad from a health perspective. It's bad from a gross perspective. It's bad from all of these different from vantage points. It's just bad. And encouraging people to spend more time outside makes people, I think, more conscious of that. And the health implications are actually decreased by being outside for a longer period of time, right? Because you're actually better off if you're outside rather than being inside, where the smog really sort of infests and builds inside of the buildings themselves, and really hurts people from a health perspective. So it's good to be outside, even when there's still smog. But it encourages people to really think about this more deeply and sort of see it in a face-to-face perspective and recognize it as a problem. And when we think about like how Pittsburgh came to become a much cleaner city today than we were in the 60s or in the 70s or in the 80s, that's the reason. The reason is because people started to realize that it was a problem, and recognizing it was a problem had the effect of encouraging people to think more serious about a solution and be willing to take more drastic measures towards a solution. So it resulted in a lot of rulings about like what you could and couldn't do to our air, and all of that. I think that we are broadly more willing to take seriously the need to approach, environmental problems if we're spending our time in the environment.
Yeah, That makes sense.
And so super blocks are a way to get people to outside.
Yeah,
And in
that's
that
for
sense, they're
sure.
just so vital. They're just so vital. And we think about like the broader implications of people taking cars, again, they're just cars, but doing a carpool with a lot of different people from lots of different socioeconomic backgrounds,
Right.
lots of different racial backgrounds, lots of different gender backgrounds, blah, 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 blah. We think about like the implications of that in a city like New York. It has a real, cultural
Yeah,
value.
that's true.
It really does have a
The amount
cultural
of
value.
times you have conversations with someone on the train
Hmm.
and you just kind of like talk to them, or like, I don't know if you were with us this one time, but we were on the train and these two girls were like talking and like about like their relationship issues, and we were just all like, we were sitting across from them on the train, so we were like hearing them and like laughing because they sounded like two high school girls. We were in high school at the time, and it was just so funny because they like, they're at some point they stopped and like, oh my god, we're like totally like telling our issues like the whole train and like everyone's hearing us, but like it's funny and
But
like,
it's fun.
and you can
It
also like
gives,
relate to
right,
people.
right.
You
And
like
it
see these
gives a
people.
real culture.
Right.
I think a lot about like um one of the things that I really was looking for when I was looking for university was like I want a place that has a quad,
Mm,
because a quad is a place where collective culture happens.
right.
Like I spent a summer doing a summer program at Rhode Island School of Design, which is in Providence,
Right.
Rhode Island, and it's a pretty campus, and like the staff are all quite good and blah 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 blah. But like I could never go to RISD. There's just no way. Both because like now I'm no longer an architecture student, so that would not be ideal. But also because
Sure.
like it just doesn't work as a culture,
Mm,
because there's no space, there's no collective space where like culture happens, where
mm,
you can think of like this is RISD. Like, there's
gotcha.
a place. If you think about like what is Carnegie, like there's a place, right? There's a space for people and you'll know that when you're there, like you're going to interact with other people, you're going to interact with the broader community
Right.
of the
Yeah.
school. And when I think about the broader community of the city, the broader community of like what is it to be Manhattan, right? I think of Central Park. I think of these
Sure.
places, I think of like Grand Central. I think of these places that are like a lot of people are interacting with the same shared cultural experience,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
There are millions of people who I have never met and will never meet, but who all have Grand Central in common with me,
Right.
and like know what that is, like what that means,
And that experience of,
and that experience, right?
yeah, or like even like I was a commuter a year ago,
Mm-hmm,
and like being able to to like talk about commuter life and like that
mm-hmm.
kind of culture. I never thought about commuters, like I saw them and like, oh, there's a lot of commuters, but like actually being one and having that shared experience with like the hundreds of people that commute to New York City every day is kind of interesting, and like it's a new thing to part, like a new part of me, you know.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think that we too frequently um, forget what we like about culture and what
Interesting.
builds culture. Like what builds culture has a lot to do with our framework for public interaction,
Yeah.
and that public interaction happens because we're in these grand centrals. It's because we're in these central parks. It's because we're in these broader communal spaces.
Yeah.
And so building that not just at the level of the city-wide, because Grand Central is obviously, we're talking about millions of people. We're talking about people who are across the entire city, right?
Sure.
But also building equivalent spaces at a localized level,
Yeah.
building an understanding of like what does it mean to live on this block,
Yeah.
right?
That'd
And the
be
truth
really
is,
powerful.
it is powerful. The truth is
Yeah.
that there's not a meaning to individual blocks in the way that there ought to be.
Yeah. So you have
There's
like
meanings,
communities. There's
right?
each. I'm just an example from Manhattan. You have different communities. There are different neighborhoods. They're all like have their names, and they all like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, we're Yorkville or we're Harlem or we're like Spanish Harlem, whatever. But it's not like, you know,
Yeah,
they just live there, and that's what the
for
place is
sure,
called.
for
But like,
sure.
imagine the place having the name and then also having a
Exactly.
culture to go with
What does
it.
it mean to be Harlem?
Right.
What does it mean to be like a particular space? What does it mean to be in a particular block?
Right.
right? And if your answer is, well, we have this shared pool,
Yeah.
we have this amphitheater, well, like this is where we come together as a community.
We have a
This is
talent
where
show every week.
we have a talent show, whatever the fuck it
Right.
is. It doesn't have to be like a talent show is a great example. It doesn't have to be like this wildly important and like, life altering thing, but just
Yeah.
this basic system
Yeah.
of having this culture multiplies across generations and it multiplies across the experience. And I don't think that people fully recognize when we're buying into communities, fully recognize when we're choosing where to live, fully recognize when, all of this, how important this is. But we do understand it with respect to tourism, right?
Sure.
Think about the places
Yeah.
that get tourism and think about the places that don't get tourism.
Right.
Places that get tourism are places that are walkable.
Yeah.
Places that get tourism are not places that you're able to go from one gas station to the next gas station. That's just not how it
Right.
works
Yeah.
at all.
Because why not? Why would you go there?
Because exactly, why would you do
Yeah.
that? Of course not.
I want to be able to walk from Central Park to I don't know, the Museum of Natural History to somewhere else.
Right.
in
There's a
Manhattan.
specific space. And so building out that cultural phenomenon to allow all of New York, to allow all of, I was shitting on Boston earlier, but allow all of Boston, allow all of these different cities to genuinely be able to grapple with their own cultural like place, right? Sense of place is really important, and it requires that we have a publicly provided, a publicly available areas for those connections to take place. And that means that car space, you cannot park your Tuba.
Nope.
We need that space.
We do. We desperately need that space.
We need that space.
So,
this is a short episode, but I enjoyed this episode.
We're good.
Oh.
Yeah.
How long was this episode?
We're about 45 minutes in.
We're 45 minutes in. Right. I have no sense of time. You will soon learn this if you watch this thing. Houston is in charge of making sure that time is a thing.
Yeah.
We adore all of you. You're all wonderful.
So make sure to we didn't tell them what can they do? What can we do?
What can we do? You have to. Okay, that's a wonderful question. Okay, what do we do? We were talking earlier about how coronavirus has effectively forced restaurants outside.
Right.
Make them stay outside.
Yeah.
After coronavirus, we're starting to get vaccines, which is good. Paint some murals on the concrete.
Yeah.
Make it a really pretty mural. Very attractive. And then the city will be like, hey, you can't do that. And you'll be like, hey, I did it in the middle of the night. I'm just kidding. I don't condone crime. Definitely don't condone crime. That would be bad. I don't.
Yeah, like we're talking about cars, not trains. We don't want you to do crime.
Don't do beautiful graffiti. That would be bad.
Yeah.
Beautiful graffiti is illegal. Banksy is a bad boy. We don't like Banksy. The point is that, having public art is really important. And building a public system of art has the effect of building that culture. And building that culture has the effect of creating spaces that are currently impermanent, making them into permanent spaces.
Right.
Right. The Eiffel Tower was never supposed to be permanent. It was made as part of the World's Fair, and the reason it became permanent was because everyone liked it. Originally, the French people didn't like it, but then the World's Fair happened, and everyone was like, "Ho ho ho! We like your stuff." I made that a French accent, but it actually should have been like a Texan accent, because there was a bunch of people from across the globe who came to France and was like, "Holy shit, this is quite nice." And then all the French were like, "Yes, it is quite nice," because we're all very boisterous and we're all big fans of ourselves. And having that collective culture, having that shared culture, people recognizing that culture as a beautiful thing, makes us, as in the community itself, recognize and respect that culture that we ourselves have created, right?
So we have to do that on a small level.
We have to do that at a small level. We have to create beautiful murals and make people who are coming into our city go, holy shit, Pittsburgh is so pretty. We have such pretty murals. And then we say, yeah, we do, you know? And then even if it was an accident that had happened,
now
we have pretty murals. This is something that's happened in Miami. right? There's a whole district in
Right.
Miami that has
Yeah.
beautiful murals across the whole area. And originally it was just a bunch of illegal graffiti. But as it
Right.
became more and more of a thing, people were like, "Oh, Windward is such a it's such a beautiful area. Like everyone should go live there because it's so pretty.
Yeah.
Because there's so many beautiful murals." That's what we need to do. We need to have
Yeah.
more murals. I'm a big fan of graffiti. I'm a big fan of murals.
On the
Again,
streets.
I do not condone.
No, we don't
activity.
advocate for it.
We do not advocate for illegal.
We like it.
We like it. We think
We
it's
like it
good
when
for
it's
society.
done.
We like it. We think it's good for society, but we do not advocate for it
No.
because I don't want to get in trouble with the law. You know,
We don't like the popo.
the popo, the
Don't
popo.
like the popo.
We don't like the popo. We don't like interacting with the popo. Yeah.
No.
Okay. So we have to do that.
Yeah.
We also have to encourage the use of public spaces in this context generally. We have to encourage more people to start building out in this space. I think that coronavirus has a lot of problems, but I think this is one small facet of our lives that I think coronavirus has actually made better at some small level, which is really powerful and really important.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's basically the episode.
Okay.
We love all of you.
I hope you enjoyed us talking about cars. Definitely not trains, but next time we will talk about trains. For all of you train lovers, we will talk about trains.
Talking about trains.
I'm very excited because I love this
like trains a lot.
I'm so excited.
But this episode was not about trains.
It wasn't about
cars.
To be clear, it was not about trains.
It was about cars.
Only about cars.
Only about cars, nothing else. If anyone in the
comments section says, it was also about superblocks, though.
Oh,
it was about superblocks and
you always talk
cars.
about the trains. Yeah, it was about superblocks and cars. That's it.
Right.
Anyone in the comment section who says, "Ooh, such a great episode about trains," I will smack you. Not physically, but mentally, I will smack you. And I might even reply to you and be like, "You are wrong. It was not about trains. It was about cars."
We said it so
many times. And I will verbally smack you. It will be a verbal smack. It will be like a poof. That'll be my smack.
Ooh,
like and subscribe. You like my poof?
Yeah.
I like my poof as well.
Like this video if you like the poof.
The poof. The older I get, the less words I use as words. I just use like, by the time I'm 80 years old, I'll just be like,
I love that.
All right. Like and subscribe. We love you all. Bye-bye.
Share this video, and I'll see you next time.